All right, welcome to a deep dive that's, well, a little different. We're diving into Doza projects, and it's not like listening to finished tracks. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It's more like musical sketches or ideas, or really just kind of like peeking into a composer's workshop.
I see. So like raw materials.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So the question is, what kind of sonic world are they building with all this?
Hmm. Well, right off the bat, what gets me is how Doza Projects just plays with your expectations.
Oh, yeah.
You get these like eerie soundscapes,
Mhm.
almost like apocalyptic,
Yeah.
and then suddenly, bam, something playful pops up.
Yeah.
And then they throw in all this stuff that's like not even musical, like whoopee cushions and baby cries. It's wild.
Yeah, it's quite a ride, isn't it? Like, take Doza Project their Noctel.
Hmm.
It gives you those dystopian vibes right out of a sci-fi movie, you know what I mean?
Totally.
And then Doza Project's Bim Bum Bemily pops up, and it's completely different. Like, it's whimsical and almost nonsensical.
Yeah. Yeah. And that shift is what's so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Like their Noctal uses all this dissonance, those clashing notes that create tension.
Okay. Yeah.
And the instrumentation is really sparse, too. It might just be a low drone and some metallic sounds, and the slow tempo really adds to that feeling of dread, you know.
Makes sense.
Then
Yeah.
with Bim Bom Bimily, everything speeds up, and you've got these bright, almost childlike melodies and all those crazy sounds layered on top.
Yeah, here, yeah.
They're really messing with those established musical ideas, but they're adding their own spin to it.
Totally. And it's not just the overall feel either, right? There are these little elements that keep popping up too.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Like skabadabadaboo or that long ayoo sound.
Ah, right. Those are what we call motifs. They're these short musical ideas that just come back again and again.
Huh, interesting.
The Ska Bada Bada Boot is really cool because it hints at ska music, which is known for its upbeat tempo and those offbeat rhythms.
Okay.
But then Doza Projects doesn't like totally commit to ska.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like they're sampling the style and then weaving it into their own sound.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like they're leaving little breadcrumbs, these hints of something familiar in a world that's otherwise completely experimental.
Yeah, I like that. Breadcrumbs.
But hey, let's not forget the lyrics, or at least the little bits and pieces we have.
Oh, true.
Doza Project's Party Manager lyrics, that one stands out because it actually feels like there's a story starting to form.
You're right. Party Manager lyrics is a curious one because most of what we have are just sounds or phrases.
Right.
But here it feels like they're attempting a narrative. You start to get a sense of this character, you know, always in demand, the life of the party.
Mm-hmm.
It makes you wonder, who is this party manager? What's their story?
Totally. It's almost like they're teasing us with a story, but then leaving it up to us to fill in all the blanks.
Uh-huh, yeah.
And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have Doza Project's Adai, which is straight up German gangster rap.
Oh, yeah.
Way more focused on attitude than telling a story.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I really leans on the vocal delivery.
Mm.
The lyrics themselves might not have a clear story, but the way they're rapped, that aggressive tone and the rhythmic flow, it creates a very specific mood and energy.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that.
It's like a reminder that music doesn't always need traditional lyrics to tell stories.
Huh. Yeah.
It can be about the feeling the vibe,
Yeah.
just the overall sonic experience.
And sometimes it feels like we're not just listening to music, we're like looking at instructions for making it.
Oh, what do you mean?
Well, like with Doza Crew MDO Disc Project,
Yeah, right.
it has regular musical notation, but then it throws in these random phrases like, Mirko stinked.
Uh-huh.
What's that all about?
It really makes you wonder about their process.
Yeah.
Is this like a way to spark their own creativity, or is it meant for someone else? Are these inside jokes or like actual directions for people they're working with?
That's a good point.
Mirko stinked means Mirko stinks, by the way.
Oh.
It could be a playful jab at someone.
Hmm.
Or maybe it's code for something else entirely. Who knows?
It's like we're seeing the raw ingredients, like notes scribbled on napkins before they've been turned into a meal.
I like that.
And then there's Doza Project's Steuerbefehl, which seems to be made up entirely of these musical directives.
Ah,
It's like a sound engineer's checklist. Xylophone, sitar, chants, up-tempo, slow, deep, gritty, techno.
Steuerbefehl is so interesting to me because it seems like it lays out all the sonic building blocks without actually giving you the finished structure.
Yeah, I see what I mean.
It's like they're sketching out a soundscape but leaving it totally open to interpretation.
Right.
You mentioned a sound engineer's checklist, and it totally has that vibe.
Yeah, this is where I think it's super important to remind everyone.
What's that?
Everything we're listening to is a work in progress.
Right. Of course.
We're not hearing finished tracks. It's like we're in the workshop, surrounded by half-finished projects and experimental sounds.
You're exactly right. It's like we've been invited into the artist's lab, you know?
Yeah.
What makes it so fascinating is that we're not just listening to a final product, but we're engaging with that process of discovery.
I like that.
So I'm curious what stands out to you at this stage. What kind of connections are you starting to make?
Well, one thing that really strikes me, even with all this experimentation, is that there's a sense of purpose behind it. These aren't just random sounds thrown together. There's a mind at work here, playing with ideas, pushing boundaries.
Totally, yeah.
But before we get too deep into analyzing the artist's intentions, there's this one element that we just can't ignore.
What's that?
The sheep farts.
Ah, yes, the sheep farts. Bold choice, to say the least.
I mean, Doza Project's lyrics, Sheep Fart, starts out innocently enough with la la la, throws in that signature ew sound, and then it takes a hard left turn into the absurd.
Yeah.
We've got a whoopee cushion, solo laughter sheep noises, and then, well,
It definitely makes you pay attention.
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure I'd call it a musical choice, but it definitely says something about their willingness to embrace the unconventional, even the ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's like they're daring us to take them seriously while at the same time making fun of the whole idea of serious music.
Uh-huh. That's a good point.
It's that unexpected humor that keeps you on your toes.
It does. And even with all the sonic weirdness, it feels like there's a thread running through everything.
Yeah.
It's not just chaos. There's a deliberate hand guiding the listener through this sonic playground.
You're right. It's not just randomness for the sake of it. Those recurring motifs, those anchors,
Oh, yeah.
the skabadabadoo, and woo, they pull us back from the edge of complete sonic mayhem.
I see what you mean, yeah.
They hint at a larger structure, some method to the madness.
Like you're saying, hey, we might throw in some sheep farts, but we're still in control here.
Exactly.
And speaking of unexpected elements, there's Doza Project's lyric set.
Oh, yeah. What about it?
It literally just says, voiceover only, 828-4885-946-3737.
What do you make of that?
I don't know. It's where Doza Projects gets really meta,
Yeah.
They're blurring the lines between creating music and the final product
How so?
by including those instructions as lyrics.
Bessie, yeah.
It's like they're inviting us to consider, the mechanics of songwriting, the choices that go into making music.
That's really interesting.
Like they're saying, hey, this is how the sausage gets made, folks.
Yeah.
It's a playful way of acknowledging how constructed it all is.
Right.
And it makes you realize that even with these unfinished experimental pieces, there's still a guiding hand shaping the experience.
For sure.
We might not know where we're going, but we're definitely on a journey.
It's a journey that's both intriguing and challenging, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
We have to let go of our ideas of what music should be and just immerse ourselves in the experience,
I agree, and we've only just started to scratch the surface of Doza Projects.
We have, and I have a feeling there's so much more to uncover.
Yeah, what we've heard so far raises way more questions than it answers.
It does, and that's what makes it so exciting. As we go deeper into this, let's keep in mind what we've learned from these first pieces.
Okay.
The unconventional sounds, the recurring motifs, the hints of narrative, and that humor. It all adds up to this unique sonic world that challenges us to rethink what music can be.
Absolutely, and that's what we're here to do.
That's right. So let's dive in and see what else we can find. So welcome back to our Doza Projects Deep Dive.
Yeah, we've been through quite a sonic whirlwind, haven't we?
We have, from the subtle and eerie to the just plain absurd.
It's like we've stumbled into a sonic flea market.
Oh.
There's something interesting around every corner, but it's not always clear how it all fits together.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
But maybe that's the whole point, right?
What do you mean?
Maybe Doza Projects isn't about creating one cohesive thing.
Okay.
Maybe it's about celebrating all the individual pieces, the fragments of sound and ideas.
That's an interesting thought. It challenges the traditional idea of music as a structured experience.
Right.
Doza Projects seems to embrace that fragmented nature of how we live now, in the digital world.
Yeah, I see.
They're constantly bombarded with these bits and pieces of information.
Like our brains are being rewired to process everything in this non-linear way.
Exactly, and maybe Doza Projects is just holding up a mirror to that.
But it's not just reflecting it, right? They're playing with those fragments, rearranging them, creating something new out of it.
Yeah, and maybe by embracing that fragmentation, they're also kind of critiquing it.
What do you mean?
It's like they're saying, hey, look at how we consume information now in these disconnected bursts. Is that how we really want to experience art, music, life?
It's a good question. Makes you think about what it means to really connect with art these days.
For sure.
Do we need to find new ways of listening, new ways of connecting with all those little pieces?
Maybe, but there's also that playful side to Doza projects. Yeah,
Yeah.
keeps it from feeling too serious, like they're acknowledging how absurd it all is.
Uh-huh, right.
Like, come on, let's laugh at the chaos. Find some joy in the unexpected.
And that humor is important. It keeps things light and fun so we don't get bogged down trying to overanalyze everything.
Absolutely. But speaking of analysis, maybe we should talk about some ways we could interpret all of this.
Okay, yeah, that's a good idea.
One lens we could use is postmodernism.
Postmodernism.
Yeah, postmodern art often rejects those big narratives and fixed meanings.
Okay.
Instead, it embraces the idea of multiple interpretations, blurring the lines between high culture and low culture.
And Doza Projects definitely does that right.
Totally.
We've got classical music, electronic music rap, even sheep farts all mixed together.
Exactly. It's like they're saying anything goes. There are no rules.
And that freedom, that willingness to break with tradition is what makes it so exciting.
I agree. It's a breath of fresh air because sometimes the music world can feel a bit too predictable, a bit too safe.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that art doesn't have to be polished and perfect to be meaningful.
You're right. Sometimes the most interesting stuff comes from those messy experimental places. Yeah. Where artists are willing to take risks, push the boundaries.
I think that's one of the key takeaways here with Doza Projects.
What is...
It's not about easy answers or neatly packaged emotions.
Yeah.
It's about challenging us to think differently, to question what we believe to be open to new possibilities.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So as we continue, let's keep that in mind.
Yeah, let's embrace the messiness, the absurdity, the moments that make us go, wait, what was that?
Exactly. Because those are the moments where the real magic happens.
Now, let's zoom in on some of those specific elements that make Doza Projects so unique, like those recurring motifs.
Oh, yeah. Good idea.
The ska bada bada badoo and the...
Yeah.
What do you think their role is in shaping the whole experience?
Well, they're like landmarks in a strange, unfamiliar place.
Yeah.
They give us a sense of grounding, a feeling of continuity amidst all the chaos.
Okay.
Like they're saying, don't worry, you're not totally lost. You've been here before.
That's a great way to put it. And it shows how the artist can create a sense of cohesion.
Right.
Even in a work that's so fragmented.
Exactly. It's like they're giving us just enough structure to keep us engaged without sacrificing the element of surprise.
Yeah, it's a delicate balance, and they seem to handle it really well.
They do. But those motifs also raise an interesting question.
What's that?
Are they just musical choices, or do they have a deeper meaning?
Ooh, that's where things get really interesting.
Right. We could analyze them from a purely musical perspective.
Yeah.
Looking at their structure, their rhythm, how they interact with other elements.
I see.
But we could also think about what they might symbolize.
Okay, yeah.
Like the ska bada bada badoo could be a nod to the history of popular music,
Oh, yeah.
acknowledging the influences that shaped their sound.
Or it could be something completely different, right?
Exactly. Maybe it's a personal joke, a childhood memory, or just a sound they like.
But the beauty is we don't know for sure.
And that opens up the possibility for so many different interpretations.
It's like they're inviting us to play detective. Search for clues and piece together our own understanding of the work.
I love that. And that's what makes it so engaging.
Yeah.
It's not just about passively listening. It's about actively participating.
And that active participation goes beyond just interpreting the music.
How so?
It's about how we relate to the creative process itself,
Oh.
Doza Projects challenges us to rethink the roles of the artist and the audience.
Interesting.
Instead of just being consumers, we're invited to become collaborators, to engage with the raw materials and shape the meaning in our own minds.
It's a radical idea and one that
Yeah.
could really change how we experience art in the digital age.
Yeah, it could.
But before we get carried away with the big picture,
Yeah.
let's remember that Doza Projects is at its heart about sound.
Oh, right.
It's about that visceral experience of listening, of being immersed in a world of unexpected sonic textures.
You're right. It's easy to get lost in trying to analyze everything, but we can't forget the power of music to move us emotionally.
Exactly. And Doza Projects does that for sure.
It does. It makes us laugh, think, question what we thought we knew, and sometimes it just makes us go, wow, I've never heard anything like that before.
That's the best feeling, right?
Yeah, and I think that's the ultimate goal of any artist.
What is?
To create something new, something unique, something that expands our understanding of what's possible.
Couldn't agree more so as we head into the final part of our deep dive.
Yeah.
Let's keep our ears open, our minds flexible, and our senses ready for anything.
I'm ready.
Because Doza Projects is full of surprises and we've only just begun to explore.
Welcome back to the final part of our Doza Project's deep dive.
We've been on quite a sonic adventure.
We have from eerie soundscapes to, well, sheep farts.
It's been a fascinating journey into a world where musical rules are, well, basically non-existent.
Exactly. So as we wrap up, let's try to connect the dots. What can we take away from all this?
One thing that really stands out to me is how Doza Projects challenges that traditional idea of the artist, as
Yeah.
a lone genius. These pieces feel more like invitations to collaborate, like we're completing the creative process along with the artist.
I see what you mean. We talked about those musical directives, those voiceover-only lyrics.
Okay, yeah.
They're saying, here are the tools, now you go bang something.
Yeah, it's totally different from presenting a finished product and expecting the listener to just sit there and absorb it.
Right.
Doze Projects wants you to participate, to bring your own ideas and interpretations to the table.
It's kind of like those open source software projects
Oh, yeah.
where anyone can contribute to the code.
I like that, except here we're contributing to the musical experience itself.
Exactly. And I think it reflects a bigger shift happening in the art world.
Yeah.
Moving away from art as this static object and towards art as a process and experience a conversation.
We see it everywhere, right?
Yeah, like in interactive installations, participatory performance art, even in how we consume music online, with remixes and mashups becoming their own art forms.
Right, and I think Doza Projects is tapping into that energy.
Makes sense.
It's about breaking down the barriers between the artist and the audience, between creating and consuming, and recognizing that the meaning of art isn't fixed, but comes from the interaction between the creator and the receiver.
It makes you wonder what music will be like in the future. Will we see more artists doing this collaborative thing? Will albums become a thing of the past?
Who knows?
Yeah.
But Doza Projects definitely gives us a glimpse into one possibility.
Yeah.
A future where musical boundaries disappear. The creative process is more transparent, and the listener is more active in shaping the experience.
A future where sheep farts might be the next big hit? Okay, maybe not that far.
Haha.
But seriously, what's the most important thing for listeners to take away from this deep dive?
I think the key takeaway is to be open-minded.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to challenge your ideas about what music can be sound. Embrace the unexpected, the unconventional, even the weird.
The weird is good.
Exactly, because sometimes that's where you find the most interesting, innovative, and moving art.
Well said. So to our listeners, keep your ears open, your minds curious, and be ready to step outside your comfort zones.
That's the best way to experience music.
The future of music is waiting to be discovered, and it might just surprise you.